So good afternoon everyone. This is the third in the series of 4 introductory lectures. The last lecture or the session for this year is next week, and some of you would have been familiar with Venerable Anna Goldstein. She's now overseas and I'm standing in for the 2 particular last classes. So based on the previous classes, with this particular one we're going to talk about the 6 perfections and how they are an inordinate, amazing states of mind that once embraced in one's life can actually allow you to achieve all your goals and your wishes. Such is the force and power of the 6 perfections. So before we start, however, we'll just go into a meditation to settle the mind and to leave all images of driving here and things that have happened yesterday, last week, or things you have to think about for the future. So as normal, you find yourself in a comfortable position where your back is straight, allowing the energies to flow freely. And a straight back will ensure you don't fade away in sleep, that your bare awareness is maintained, and you have a sense of the body, your mind, finding its natural state and resting. So the meditation can revitalize and familiarize oneself with a virtuous state of mind, looking after yourself. So therefore you can look after others. And be of benefit to yourself and of benefit to others. You may leave your eyes partly opened or fully close them. The first stage is becoming aware of your body, where it's sitting. Your eyes, facial muscles and jaw. Becoming familiar and acquainted with your body that shows you where you may be holding tension the most. So you focus on the eyes and sense for any tightness, any knots, and allow your eyes to become soft beneath the eyelids. And we go down the back of the neck, facial muscles and jaw, to loosen the jaw. Place the tongue underneath the palate or where it is most comfortable. And down the neck, shoulders. You may feel and sense the shoulders now slowly loosening and going down slightly. And then we focus on the arms, Your left arm, right arm may be becoming heavier, but also lighter. Then down to the hands, the palm of your hands. These busy hands that do so much are now allowed to rest. And you may also feel your hands becoming soft and relaxed. Then we bring and gather the mind to our back, each muscle, shoulder blades going down to the legs. Are your knees comfortable? Ankles and feet. And the body will now, in this state, find itself in its natural position without restriction. And all unnecessary tightness just dissolves in the present moment. So in this state, in this natural state, you can gather the mind now to the breath. Wherever you feel the breath the most, back of the throat, at the nostrils, tummy, the rising and falling of the chest. So gather the mind in that place where the breath and you become one. And with your mind single-pointedly, notice any changes to the breath as you begin to relax. Now imagine with every in-breath you feel your body with the breath clear like light. And then when you breathe out, imagine you're breathing out any stress or worry or concerns, any time travelling from past, present to future. Just bring yourself back to the present. Breathing in, filling the body with air, clear and pure, and then breathing out any worries, any pain, And then with the in-breath, as the air or breath fills your body, imagine now that emanating light within your body. The light starting wherever you wish and filling the entire body with this pure light. A light of weightlessness. This light of peace, calm, tranquility, emanates now slightly out of your body, through the pores of your skin and body, that there is an orb of light around you. And that light within and around you is peaceful, harmonious, aware, and caring. That anyone coming close or near you can feel that awareness, that peace, and that strength. And that anyone around you then knows trust. And when there's trust and caring, then benefits to others and self will manifest. Just be in that state for a moment or so, what it would be like. So we now gather the mind to the breathing, to this room. You're aware of where you're sitting, the temperature of the room, the sounds outside, the sounds inside. So when you're ready, you may gently open your eyes or remain in this state as long as you wish. So the 6 perfections are generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. What makes them the great benefits and what makes them the supreme or perfection of these traits is that when we think about them, when we're actually becoming patient or giving, that we think firstly of why we're doing this. And for some it might be multiple reasons, but from a Mahayana point of view, any action we do, any action that is done for the benefit of self and for the benefit of others. Because in those 6 perfections, a lot of merit is being generated. So that merit is considered as part of your spiritual practice and progressing on that practice. The next method is the supreme method, and the method we will discuss at the end of this session, or towards the end of it, and do a meditation, which is called the emptiness of inherent existence. So while you're giving, the act of giving, with the knowledge that you are at present giving because of a lot of causes and conditions that culminate in that one moment of the act, the heart's giving, the act of giving, and the recipient who received the gift. That's why it's called the Great Perfections, perfecting it with the three supreme reliances, the third being you dedicate the merit. So in Mahayana Buddhism, we know that every moment by moment our minds change. Who we were yesterday is not who we are today. We may have a day where all our emotions have a lot of variations, happy one moment, sad the next, or perhaps irritated, but that irritation itself does not last, because the true nature of your mind is clear and knowing. What those emotions and feelings do, they're adventitious defilements where they come and go, come and go. And with meditation and practice, you become more aware. Like a small mosquito on a still lake, you'll be able to detect when those emotions are rising. So supreme dedication seals the merit. And there's the argument on one hand that says, well, why should I have to be consciously aware of what I'm doing when I'm actually working from the heart? Why do you have to place another layer into what comes naturally for me? And there is a good point to make in that, because in putting another layer of thought on the act of free giving, or the act of patience, or the act of ethics, it actually allows one to just stop for a moment and reflect on what they do. But the outcome of that is that free-flowing love, generosity, ethics, patience then becomes more profound. And that self-awareness of who you are becomes heightened. So you're working with that awareness of self, the virtuous action, working in sync. So in generosity, we can give the material things, we can give it with the mind, with the Dharma, protection, and we can give also love. So in terms of giving with the Dharma, Dharma also means a spiritual scripture, a spiritual guidance. Buddha Dharma is the Mahayana or the Buddhist principles. Dharma also relates to things like other traditions. So in other traditions, giving the Dharma is important in situations where a friend may have experienced something quite challenging for them. But you could see as a good spiritual friend that siding with them and perhaps even criticising others and taking their side is not going to help them. If you yourself are on the spiritual practice, you yourself can provide them good spiritual advice. And it could be that the person's tried endlessly to attempt to help somebody very close to them, but they keep repeating over and over and over again these behaviours. So the person may be feeling inadequate about not being able to help somebody that really does need help. So the advice you may give them, and the advice that we give each other as Buddhists, is that sometimes a person's karma is so strong that they may have the best help available, all the support networks, a loving family, anything they want. But if their karma is so strong, then there's nothing you or any other organisation can do to help them. That is like a breath of fresh air when somebody has spent a lifetime trying to help somebody, just say with a mental affliction. Because you know it's really out of your hands. And in a way, it's very similar to what the Christians say about give it up to God. If you yourself can't change a person, despite all the enormous amount of trying, then just, you know it's their karma. So that's when one of the perfections of patience comes in. This person will be like this. I've tried my best. But from a positive perspective, when that karma is ripened, then the healing will happen. Similar to people with conditions. You may have a physical conditions. And despite all the treatment, you might have one person with treatment that fully recovers and another person that doesn't. You may say they are considered physiologically different, their genes are different, but if they, in the same place, country, same doctors, at times it could be their karma, the difference between the karma. Thus, sometimes people who stay in the sun, some get skin cancer, some others don't. As Buddhists, we believe that karma has a significant part in what is occurring in our minds and what we see with our minds. So when we give material things, we give with love and compassion. We give with the thought that we're doing this for a cause of developing our bodhicitta and therefore enlightenment. That we give without fame, we give without expecting anything in return. So it's like an unconditional gift. And this is where the detail comes in and your self-awareness. Sometimes we give to pacify an angry person. So there's a bit of self-protection there. Sometimes we give expecting to have that gift returned. In business, we know you scratch my back, I scratch your back. In giving, in the perfection of giving, it's giving from the heart. And I have a very strong Christian background. I'm now a practicing Buddhist. But if you can refer to God, God's blessings in the giving, God does not bless the act of giving. God blesses the heart of a giver. The same as Buddhism. We're blessed with the heart of a giver wanting to give. And when we become more self-aware, we'll be able to do that from our depths of our heart, to know that when we give, it's purely an act from the heart. So when you give, to complete the karma and the great merit of giving, it is dependent on the recipient becoming satisfied. So all these people that give their second-hand clothing that have got holes in them and need washing, or buttons, they're not really valued by the recipients, which is people like Salvos or St. V's. So they're not really valued. It's also giving without regret. Sometimes we give to a person and then we regret, thinking, oh my dear, that should have gone to some other person. So it's really a free-flowing gift from the heart. And as we become more and more aware of ourselves, calmer, at peace, you'll be able to give exactly what that person wants. When you give, the results to yourself are that you fix your body, you have a healthy body, and that's when you give food, clothes and things that sustain people. You have an attractive appearance, but not in the sense of beauty, more that you have a presence about you that will allow people to trust you. And you become wealthy in the future. So if you give with money, if you give with clothes, if you give with gifts, if you give with your time, then that is one of the benefits. But as we discussed, you're not really doing it to have wealth. You're actually giving from the heart. The result is that you do have wealth. Here, when we did gardening, our spiritual teacher would always come out with chocolates without fail at about 10:30, 10:45 every Saturday morning. And you could see not only was that gift coming from unconditional level, but it was also such a joy to receive those chocolates from our teacher. Our teacher was teaching us something very valuable. He was teaching us the perfection of giving. You can also give with your mental generosity. So if you don't have money or anything that you can give, you can imagine giving with your mind. You can give, I mentioned, the Dharma, things that may help a friend through teaching or saying a mantra recitation. You can also help the dying who are Buddhists, or even the dying who are Christians. Buddhists who are dying will generally have a request, or we play mantras. The Vietnamese community are very big on playing mantras from Amitabha Buddha. And in fact, they've got little boxes where we give the patients that to hear day and night. And that creates a positive imprint within the mental continuum and helps them during the dying process. For Christians, they refocus on Jesus. There was a student here whose parents were Christian, and she asked advice of our spiritual teacher, the one behind me, the portrait, and he said, what does she practice? And she said, she's a Catholic. Then get her to focus on Jesus. Because at the time of death, the mind, the more peaceful state of mind, the better it is for the transition of death, and in our belief, the rebirth state. So that's the primary concern with anyone who's dying, is that we help them through having a calm, still mind, focusing on a virtuous option or object, no matter what tradition. So if I'm with a patient, a Jewish patient will focus on God. If I'm with a Islamic patient, we'll focus on Allah, etc., etc. or Jehovah's Witness on Jehovah. If somebody's an atheist, we'll focus on the universe. If somebody's a Jedi, and that is an authenticated religion, we'll focus on Luke Skywalker and let the Force be with you. It's whatever that person needs right now. In fact, we did have a very young patient that was not going, unfortunately could not continue life, and the care that we provided was going through all the Star Wars, all the lovely stories on how each person, no matter what they did in the storyline, came from a place of kindness. And the father continued with that treatment when the person was palliated. So giving of love. And love means wishing for that person's happiness. And that person's happiness is not always something that we can provide. So if your friend, your very good friend, goes overseas or interstate, then the love, the mind of heart appreciates that person and thinks not so much on how they miss them, but they'll be happy there, they'll be happy there. So the focus is in them, and the manifestation of the mind is then a lot more peaceful. Ethics is a huge topic in Buddhism and other religious traditions. The Buddhist teaching of ethics is quite detailed in what is a non-virtuous and virtuous state of mind, action through the body, speech, and even through thoughts. And Anna may have covered in previous sessions that the ethics of restraint, or what are non-virtuous states of mind, was from our body, killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. From speech, lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle gossip. Mind is covetous, envious, being jealous, with hatred and spite, and also having the wrong views, like saying if you go and join this particular group, you'll attain the best possible, just give up your money and go and they'll do everything for you, which is a false sense of security and a wrong view. So it's very clear, even detailed in this book, of what exactly each non-virtue means. So when you've accidentally done something and you don't accumulate any negative karma, and when you do something that you accumulate positive karma or negative karma. So for example, if you step on an insect and kill it by accident, you never intended to kill that insect. So as Buddhists, what we say is you regret that and you wish for its higher rebirth. If you intend to kill, then what completes that karma and the heavy negative karma that needs long practice to purify is when you rejoice in that killing. When you really intend to harm somebody and it's achieved. So even you may have eaten a banana peel and thrown it on the road, and somebody else comes along, slips on the banana peel, and they fall over and die. You don't accumulate the karma for that death because you did not intend to kill that person. Same with anyone that sends soldiers to wars and issues them to kill. That person will attract the karma of both the soldiers that kill and also the karma of giving that action for people to kill. So patience is the third perfection. And in patience, a whole lot of teachings come out in various forms about the responding and not reacting, or the silence in reaction. And the definition of a patient mind is one that's a virtuous mind that can remain indifferent to any form of harm inflicted by others. So a lot of the topics that are around YouTube and being taught by consultants and meditation leaders in some centres, is a very popular topic of responding, not reacting. And everyone wishes to be in a state of mind that they just don't spontaneously have an outburst and react to something, particularly if someone's doing you harm. Now that's different to a life-threatening situation. This is where, consider an example of at work in a meeting, and somebody makes this terrible comment which is against the workplace values. And you've picked it up and you have these emotions coming up. Most people will say, if they've expressed their distaste in what they said, or their corrective, or singled that person out in a group, most people will say they will regret that. So by meditating and thinking about patience, by having the relying on you doing this, you want to cultivate meditation so you can be the best person you can be able to help others, you'll be able to develop on your spiritual path. And by saying that every act of patience that I am engaging in is an act that ultimately is a result of cause and effect. And finally, by being patient, you'll be able to cultivate and dedicate the merit. By thinking of those three things, even before entering the meeting, and by meditating on your body awareness, when you feel when those emotions are rising up, you'll be able to, just like that, sit with them. So somebody has said a very inappropriate comment which is against the company's values. Well, there are other people in the room, they've heard it too. So sometimes it's best to have a silence, or to be silent in your reaction, where you listen, you're patient. Is there something that's happened to that person? And let them speak. And if no one else points out their non-virtuous speech, it may be appropriate just to talk to them outside the meeting and afterwards. Do you realise that you said this? Is there anything that, and question if there's anything that's bothering them. They may not even realise they made that comment. It was so much ingrained in their unconscious in a biased way. So there's a lot of merit to just having that patience in many things as well. And it could be in traffic, could be at a supermarket, could be with a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, just constantly nagging. Could also be with a partner or a close friend. Just listen. And in that silence, and in that reaction, because that reaction will tell you you've picked something up. In that silence, you'll be able to hear the meaning of what people say. You will be able to pick up the small nuances in their body language and see the most micro movements that tell you something's not right or something could be wrong. So that is one of the most incredible skills or minds to cultivate in the form of patience. Because it not only helps yourself, but it helps others. The fourth of the sixth perfection is joyous effort. And do you remember a time when you were just so joyful about doing something that nothing could stop you? Absolutely nothing. Well, that's similar to the joyous effort that we teach in the Buddha Dharma. And the definition of joyous effort is a mental factor of mind taking delight in objects of virtue. Or perhaps when you gave somebody a cup of tea or made them dinner or lunch and they really enjoyed it, that joy that you have. Or it could be in painting, it could be with a craft and art, healing others if you're in the healing industry, or it could be just achieving something, that joy that you have. That's the essence to cultivate. We are amazing human beings. We've got a lot of good virtues in our minds and within ourselves. It's just harnessing and embracing that joy. It's cultivating it. So that joy is an internal delight, an energy motivated with one's heart and does not diminish over time. So if you really want to do something, there could be temporary obstacles in its way. You know, you may have a family, you may have to look after somebody who's not well, but that energy, that joyous energy, never goes away. It never diminishes. Maslow's hierarchy of needs explains very clearly what it is that creates that motivation. And Maslow fits in beautifully to any spiritual path, and it's based on a pyramid structure which says, what are the stages of our lives which we go through before we reach the highest spiritual attainments? And he said, the first stage is having food and water. And then once you've got that satisfied, then you go to the next level, which is having safety in a home, some place to stay. The next level from that is wanting to join a community, wanting to love, wanting to be part of a group, being part of that friendship. Once you've attained that, then this energy starts to increase, because you no longer have to focus about food. You've got a house or shelter, and you don't have to focus about that. You've got your friendships, you've got your community. You can go there any time that you want. Family, you don't have to worry about that. The next level is what makes the difference, and that could be that you want to be esteemed by others. You want to be the best person that you want to be in a group. If you're a researcher, you want to do lots of research and have a breakthrough about finding the cure for malaria. If you're an artist, you want to create magnificent artwork. But what that does is it's a little bit tainted with the fact that you want people to appreciate you. And Maslow was saying that the energy to self-actualize and attain your spiritual path weathers that away. You may get to a point where the need to be esteemed by others as your energy rises diminishes as you become self-powered, and you know that is the path for you. Dr. Fred Hollows was a person who was esteemed in such a great way in his profession, but that need to be esteemed was dropping, and up came his own self-powered knowing, his own self-actualization, and he left mainstream and went to work in third world countries. And such was the power of that energy that now we have the Fred Hollows Foundation. So people get stuck in wanting to be liked by others and esteemed by others, and then it becomes a thing called procrastination. So we achieved this, but now we've got to achieve that, or I finished one project and I've got to do another. I've got new staff coming in on board, and so you get absolutely stuck. Oh, I've got to get a new car. I really want to, downgrade to maybe a simpler, more fuel-effective car, or I may want to work 4 days a week. But you get stuck into that wanting to be liked by people. As we said, Fred Hollows, it's shifted for him. So sometimes breaking through that level requires a little bit of self-care and time away. Just to know what you want to do. Because as a famous psychotherapist said once, we spend half our lives doing things to please others, and then the other half, if we're lucky, finding out what it is that we really truly want to be. To please oneself. Although in Buddhism, to understand thyself and to be self-aware and to generate states of mind is always to benefit others. That's the difference. That's the detail. And anyone who's gone into this self-actualization, now they've named a lot of people like that they call the Dalai Lama in self-actualization. You become who you are, and your happiness and your joy is just so strong that you can be that way all the time, even in dreams. So that's the beauty of studying those models that are in this world, which I think that model is a pretty good model, built on spiritual practice, but unfortunately it's been changed and moulded and reshaped to the business world. But original model is about progressing into your spiritual path. Gauguin, the painter, was an accountant, and he loved art, but he was doing his job to please his parents and family. But he got to a point where he could no longer ignore this spiritual energy rising. He left his work and now went to Tahiti and did all those paintings. So find what you love to do, embrace that, enjoy your good merit, and see yourself moving in the path. Become self-aware. So in the joyous effort, procrastination becomes an obstacle to achieving what you wish to achieve. Attraction to meaningless activities, things that you like doing, sometimes like gambling, cheating, in business, watching lots of TV, playing sports. It doesn't mean that all worldly activities are not virtuous. They could, if you need to have a break, if you're an analytical person working with statistics and you come home, you just need to have a break. Playing sometimes a game can actually, or watching a wonderful movie can actually really relax you and calm the mind. You're feeling inadequate, I'm not going to, I'm too old, I'm too busy, it's too complicated, it takes too long, and I'm too deluded or I'm too agitated to meditate, etc., etc. And you get all these excuses that we put into our daily lives. But making the effort and being self-aware, what causes you to procrastinate if you want to develop your spiritual path? What is causing you to procrastinate with meditation? Even to do a little bit, like even at a red light, just focusing on the breath. You say you've got a red light, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, feel the breath, and breathing out. Breathing in, you can count how many breaths there are in between red and amber lights. Breathing in, breathing out. Amber light, breathing in, breathing out. And then green light, breathing in and breathing out. Sometimes when you're in a waiting room, you may wish to simply just focus on the breath. When the doctors are running late, you may be there half an hour. Seize the opportunity and just calm that mind, just to be acquainted with your mind. And in a calm mind, you get to see who you are. So knowing those obstacles, you know what you can do, what you're prepared to do, and what you're prepared not to do. So you should practice according to your circumstances. So if you love to go out and do charitable work or want to increase your meditation time but have a family, what is more important? Family. They say if you can't focus on your family, you can't show all those 6 perfections within the family, it leaves a question in one's mind. We had a father that was here during one of the festivals, and he had a newborn baby. And he had this look on his face. He asked a lot of questions about spirituality, Buddhism. It's as if from a past life, all this information came in the present. But he also had this look of sadness that he couldn't be involved in one of the things that he wanted to be involved with. So the advice he got at the time, be patient. Your priorities are your family. When the time comes, you will know and you can continue practicing. But also, if you wanted to read a book about the Dharma or the Buddha Dharma, and there's a child that needs your attention, you can apply and say, well, through this act with my mind, my speech of thinking about that child, my child, or whatever, whoever that person may be, I am actually developing bodhicitta, aren't I? Yes, you are. It's an act of giving, an act of love, it's an act of ethics, generosity. It's a joyous effort wanting to help somebody. Sometimes you might be on your way to a particular walking and you see an injured animal, an injured bird. And if it's a bird that you can't save anymore, then you may wish to say a prayer to it. Some people's whole plans are completely wiped out when they find an animal that needs help. Take it to a shelter. It's that spontaneous act of looking and caring for others to cultivate. Concentration is the fifth perfection, and concentration means being able to concentrate on an object of virtue without distraction. It's called meditative stabilization, and we'll talk about the meditation in a moment. So once attained, you'll be able to provide mental and physical bliss because your body is so relaxed that everything's flowing naturally within you and there's no obstacles to that free-flowing energy. They say that the movements are elegant, gracious, the speech is soft, kind, and when you're with someone out of meditation, you're with them 100% as if they are the most important person in the world right now. And children, people, colleagues, family members know when you're giving them your total, undivided attention. One teacher says the greatest gift you can give anyone is your full attention. And most people know when they're being listened to. Some working parents say at the end of a day they're reading a book to their children, but their mind is somewhere else. That's how talented we are. How the mind can work at one level and the voice can work and the eyes can work on another level too. So with concentration, we develop our clarity and self-awareness. We know what to practice and what to abandon, what will benefit you right now. And remember, you are changing moment by moment. So things that you've done today may change tomorrow. You'll be able to determine the difference between virtue and non-virtue. So if you're giving, you'll know why you're giving. And if you are developing a sturdy and strong relationship, to say in the political field or with your bosses or with a company, as a means to an end of acquiring charitable work from them or donations, that is still a virtuous mind. So you have an outcome because of bodhicitta. Everything I do is to the benefit of others. So you'll be able to achieve your own benefits, your own outcome, and that of others. We're going to also talk about the special insight which comes from concentration. So special insight is having attained the bliss of pliancy of your body and mind, then you're ready now to engage in the practice of special insight. So how do we develop special insight? Well, it's through meditation. There are lots of meditation apps out there that focus on music. So if you have heightened awareness, if you're really working in an environment where you have to use all your senses, meditation will allow you to gather those senses, develop the calmness and the spaciousness of mind. So when you're next at work, there's more of you, there's more spaciousness to you, that those activities of analysing, thinking, doing, calling, contacting, remembering, learning, deducing, are all done in a spaciousness way, where there's no clinging, that you do not lose your calmness, and you benefit self and others. So meditation, you may have had in previous sessions that there's analytical meditation and single-pointed concentration. So single-pointed concentration is gathering the mind to one place that we did before on the breath. So when you're settled, even like before you're studying is a good way to do single-pointed concentration. Now you're ready to study and develop your memory, is to calm the mind first. Then you start the analytics. So if you're looking at giving and self-analysing, you may recall in the analytical meditation the time when you did give and how it was conditional on others. How it was conditional perhaps on a predetermined outcome. You may have done the giving to get an outcome in the future. So only you know you and what motivates you. So from that analytical meditation you learn and you develop experience. That's what analytical meditation is designed for, to develop learning by analysing a particular behaviour that you would like to cultivate. And some people who've had challenging days will review frame by frame their day to the very moment that they regret saying something or acting in that way. And so what they do, they reframe it and change it within the mind. They go through that behaviour that they wanted to develop, and you future pace it where you think, well, tomorrow when I go and interact with person B, I'm going to remember these things. And remembering how you felt by responding to person B. So once you've done that, you fuse the mind with whatever behaviour that you would like it to fuse with, like the patience, that silence in reacting, that awareness of your own emotions. And then you're ready in that state to practice special insight. And special insight is one of two things that causes suffering in this world. The first is a mistaken view of the nature of reality of our minds, and the second is ignorance to the effects or the causes and effects of our karma. So when we're helping somebody who's perhaps acting non-virtuously, our attempt to help them is to stop them from creating or teaching them that if you steal, the karmic effect of that is in future time, maybe in this life, in future lives, that others will steal from you. The act of being patient and restraint creates a body and mind that is pleasing to others and self, and so forth. So in the special insight, imbued in that is the word emptiness, which in Tibetan is shunya. And the most famous verse or mantra that goes with that is Gatte, Gatte, Paragatte, Parasamon Gatte, Bodhi Soha. Gatte, Gatte, Paragatte, Parasamon Gatte, Bodhi Soha. Which means that emptiness is form, form is emptiness. And explain just briefly is that who we are is dependent upon many, many other things in this life. I am who I am because of the generosity of my parents creating me. I had the genetical structure of my parents, my eyebrows, my speech, my height, my weight. My internal organs sometimes are dependent upon the genetical structure from my parents. I have 7 siblings, and all of them have common traits, and we speak the same way. Our way we pause, the way that our inflections, our smiles are very similar. We're all 8 different individuals, but we're similar in that trait. So 8 is a good sample to do research on what is it that's common between us, but what is it that's different. And 4 of us are quiet people that look at things that are more analytical, and we're quiet at functions. 4 others are very out there, extroverted, they're joy, they joke, they're very loud. So the 4 loud ones, the 4 quiet ones are quiet in a family function to allow the 4 loud ones to speak. Like a self-preservation, you're not going to win because it takes too much energy to speak high that you just let it all go and just listen like that. So the other thing about us is that when we're called a human being, well, what really is a human being? If you're called Bob, what makes up Bob? Is it his eyes? Is it his nose? Is it his mouth? Is it his hair? It changes. He had a great set of hair when he was young, but he kind of lost it as he got older. So is he still Bob? What is it about him? He's got 2 arms, 2 hands, legs, feet. But Bob is many things to many people. To his mother, he's a son. To his partner, he's a partner. To any children that he may have, he's a father. To any nieces and nephews, he's an uncle. To a workplace, he's an employee. To his community, he could be a valuable community. If he's got money, he's a benefactor. If he's into the healing professions, he's somebody's healer.